Hi, third graders, this is Miss Ashby. Today, as writers, we are going to be focusing on how to plan out our list article. We know that writers spend time planning their text before they begin it. Today, as writers, we will just be focusing on one question. Today, we are going to be focusing on our topic of our list article. Eventually, as writers, we will be able to answer every question from this planning guide, but today we'll just focus on that first one. After we pick our topic, later as a writer, you'll come back and answer some of these questions. I want to read them to you so you have an idea of some things that you should be brainstorming and thinking about as a writer throughout the next couple of weeks. So our first question is, what is my topic? We'll answer that together today. The next question is, what will I include in my list? Describe each item. After you pick your topic, you as a writer should be thinking in your head, what are some things that you might include in your list, and how could you describe each item? The third thing that we will answer is what our title will be. We will spend some time brainstorming and looking at different text and seeing how authors create compelling titles. The fourth question is, what type of introduction will I use? We'll also spend time as writers exploring different texts and articles and thinking about how the writer is introducing their topic. The last question that we will answer is, how will we make our writing more compelling? What features can we add to make it more interesting and engaging to the reader? Eventually, we will answer all of these questions together, and then we'll begin our list article. Yesterday, with Miss Raymond, you began creating an expert list. These were items that you felt like you could do really well and would be able to explain to another person. So today, we're going to take a look at the expert list that I created, and we're going to narrow it down to pick one topic that we feel like would be an appropriate topic for our list article. So we know that an expert list is something that you can do really well. Something that would not be on Miss Ashby's list or expert list would be fixing a car. I would not be able to describe to another person the things that they need to fix a car, and it wouldn't be a good article for somebody else to read because I wouldn't be giving them the right information. So today we're going to take a look at the things that I feel like I can do really well and explain to another person. Here are some things that I put on my list: baking, candy, fall activities, eating pizza, hiking, teaching third grade, reading, and puzzles. When I take a look at that first item on my list, baking. When I think about baking, I think about how broad the topic of baking is. So as a writer, if I were to choose to write about baking, I'd have to narrow it down. I'd have to kind of find that bullseye of one topic and to be able to explain it all the way through. So for baking, I could write about a list of things that all bakers need. I could write about the top 5 things to bake in the fall. Candy. I also know that candy is too broad. There's a lot of things that go with candy. So I could narrow candy down by saying or writing an article of the best candy to have while watching a movie. Or maybe I write about the best candy to hand out during Halloween. I was feeling pretty inspired by how the weather was changing and we were starting to get into some of that fall weather. And I was thinking a great list article could be fall activities, and I could write about things to do with your family during the fall season. Another thing that I feel like I'm an expert at, it's something that I do quite often, is eating pizza. But in order to create eating pizza as a list article, I'd have to be listing different things about pizza. So I couldn't be describing to the reader how to make pizza because that wouldn't be a list article. That would be a how-to. One thing that I could do, though, is to create a list article about the best pizza restaurants in Des Moines. As a writer, I'm already kind of brainstorming the different ways that I could describe the pizza restaurants that I've been to. I could kind of talk about my favorite pizza that I got there, or I could talk about what the restaurant looked like, or maybe some other food that they offered there as well. One thing that I did quite a bit this summer was hiking. So I could, as a writer, describe to my readers things you need to hike. In my mind, I'm kind of thinking about that backpack article that we looked at the beginning of the week, and I feel like I could write an article, a list article, very similar to that, but instead of backpacking or camping, I could talk specifically about hiking and the things that you need and are important to have when you go on a hike. I'm not an expert at teaching third grade yet, but it is my 5th year and I feel like I can do it really well. So I think I could write a list article about things second graders need to know before coming to third grade. You might even be thinking that you know quite a bit about being a second grader. So maybe you could create a list article for first graders about things that all second graders need to know. One thing that I love to do is read, and I also love to share the books that I've read with other people. So I could create a list article about the best books to read over the summer in 2020. The last thing that I put on my expert list is puzzles. I could write a list article about the 5 things you need to begin puzzling. Or I could write about, because I'm thinking I really like to do puzzles on a rainy day, so I could kind of expand this topic and I could write a list article and include puzzles and reading on it by creating a list article of the best things to do on a rainy day. After you take a look at your expert list and really think about how could you narrow that topic down as a writer, you will then create you will then submit a Google form to your teacher so that they can see the topic that you picked as well. As I'm looking through this list, I'm feeling really inspired and I felt like I kind of could already see what my writing would look like if I picked the best pizza restaurants in Des Moines. So you will go back to your Google Classroom and you will click on that Google form. When you get to that Google form, you will see that your first question is your name. The second question is your list article topic. I decided best pizza restaurants in Des Moines. You might have a different idea of what your list article topic is, but I'm not going to just write pizza. I'm going to tell my teacher specifically what I'm going to be writing about involving pizza. So, best. After that, you will click the purple button that says submit. Then you are done with your work for today. Third graders, I am so excited to see the different topics that you come up with for your list article. Have a great day.